start with the ongoing trade war.
Blanket 15% tariff on all global imports.
President Trump has disrupted the global economy. The
most powerful court in the United States just tried to stop a global trade war, and within hours, it may have made one inevitable. In a 6-3 ruling, the US Supreme Court struck down Donald Trump's sweeping tariffs, saying he overstepped his authority. Markets expected a pause. Instead, Trump signed a new order, a blanket 15% tariff on imports from almost every country on Earth. And yes, nothing says diplomacy like slapping 200 countries with surprise import taxes. Genius! This is unprecedented. Not targeted tariffs on one rival, not sectors like steel or cars. A universal import tax hitting allies, competitors and neutral partners at the same time. The United States trades with more than 200 economies and thousands of supply chains, from semiconductors to food to construction materials. All they face higher costs overnight. The stakes are massive. The US imported over $3 trillion in goods last year. Even a 15% surcharge can push up prices, slow manufacturing and disrupt trade deals that took years to negotiate. Housing costs are rising, global growth is fragile, and major economies like China and the EU are recalculating fast. So, is this a short-term negotiation weapon or the first crack in the global trade system? Share your thoughts below. And before we continue, hit that like button, subscribe and share this video, because what comes next explains why this 150-day tariff could reshape the whole global economy. The 15% tariff exists because of a rarely used legal tool, Section 122 of the 1974 Trade Act. In simple terms, it lets a US president impose a temporary import surcharge up to 15% for 150 days, if there is a serious balance of payments deficit or pressure on the dollar. But what this Trade Act was actually designed for?
It was designed for short-term emergencies, not for reshaping global trade. Trump is the first president in history to use it this way. That makes it powerful but unstable. Congress must approve any extension after 150 days, and the law has almost no modern precedent. Trade lawyers already expect court challenges, which means companies don't know if the tariff will last 5 months, 5 weeks, or disappear overnight. But temporary doesn't mean harmless. The US imported more than $3 trillion in goods last year. Even a short-term 15% surcharge can freeze contracts, delay shipments, and force companies to raise prices now.
The tariffs that might vanish in months is already shaping decisions today, and that uncertainty is exactly what's shaking the global trade. For months, countries rushed to sign trade deals with Washington to escape higher tariffs. The UK secured zero tariff on steel and pharmaceuticals, and around 10% on most goods. The EU negotiated a 15% rate to avoid a transatlantic trade war. India cut a deal to drop from 50% tariffs to 18%. In Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia and Cambodia all accepted rates around 19 to 20% in exchange for market access and policy concessions.
Then came the universal 15% tariff. Overnight, the logic of those deals collapsed. Some countries that made painful concessions now face tariffs equal to, or even higher than, the global baseline. Meanwhile, countries that refuse to negotiate, like China, suddenly benefit from lower effective rates without giving anything up. This flips the incentive structure of global trade. Why offer concessions if a future executive order can erase the advantage? Businesses plan investments years ahead, but trade policy is now changing in days. The United States signed dozens of agreements covering trillions in trade flows, yet their value now looks uncertain.
If trade deals no longer guarantee stability, partners may stop negotiating, and the entire architecture of rules-based trade starts to weaken. The new tariff is reshuffling global power, and the winners are not who you might expect.
China comes out stronger in the short term. Before the court ruling, many Chinese goods faced tariffs well above 20%. Now the average rate is lower, giving Beijing leverage ahead of high-stakes negotiations. Countries that refuse to sign deals with Washington also gain. They made no concessions, yet still keep access to the US market under the same 15% ceiling. The losers are mostly US allies. The UK, the EU, and India negotiated for months to secure preferential rates, cut their own tariffs, and open markets. Now those advantages are diluted or erased. Southeast Asian exporters, especially Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia, depend heavily on U.S. demand. A sudden tariff on electronics, textiles, and furniture hits their growth models directly. U.S. companies are also caught in the crossfire. About half of U.S. imports are intermediate goods used in domestic production. Higher input costs mean more expensive cars, machinery, and homes.
The strategic paradox is clear. A policy designed to pressure rivals is straining alliances, and alliances are still the foundation of US economic power. Behind the geopolitical drama, the 15% tariff hits something far more personal: the cost of living.
Tariffs on steel, aluminum, copper, and lumber raise the price of the basic materials used in construction. Analysts estimate this adds about $1,750 to the cost of building a new home, and could mean up to 450,000 fewer homes built by 2030. In a country already short millions of housing units, that pushes prices higher and keeps buyers locked out of the market. Tariffs also function like a hidden tax. The U.S. imported more than $3 trillion in goods last year, and roughly 50% of those imports are parts and materials used by American factories. When those inputs become more expensive, companies either raise prices, cut production, or delay investment. That feeds directly into inflation, slower manufacturing growth, and tighter supply chains. So while the policy targets foreign producers, the first bills are often paid by domestic businesses and then passed on to consumers through higher prices on cars, appliances, and homes.
A global trade move is now shaping everyday affordability, and the economic ripple effects are just beginning. The 15% tariff comes with a built-in timer, 150 days. After that, Congress must approve an extension or it expires. On paper, that sounds temporary. In reality, it creates a rolling countdown that keeps markets on edge.
At the same time, the administration is launching Section 301 investigations into major trading partners. These probes can justify new, longer-lasting tariffs if the U.S. claims unfair trade practices. The result is a loop: temporary tariff, investigation, new tariff, then another investigation. For businesses, that's a planning nightmare. Supply chains are designed years in advance, not in 5-month political cycles. Companies don't know whether to relocate factories, sign long-term contracts, or wait for the next policy shift. That hesitation slows investment, freezes hiring, and increases costs. Financial markets react the same way. Uncertainty gets priced into everything, from shipping rates to currency values.
The real shock isn't just the tariff level, it's the instability. A global trading system built on predictability is now operating on deadlines, legal battles, and political decisions. And that uncertainty is what can ripple through the entire world economy. Can a 15% tariff collapse the world economy? Not alone. Global trade exceeds $30 trillion, and a temporary levy won't stop it overnight, but the deeper impact is structural. A universal tariff pushes countries to diversify away from the US, strengthen regional trade blocs, and redesigning supply chains. China gains negotiating leverage, while US allies begin questioning whether deals with Washington still guarantee stability. That erodes the rules-based system the US helped build, one based on predictability and long-term agreements. Without the trust, trade doesn't crash instantly. It slowly fragments into rival economic spheres with higher costs, duplicated industries, and more political barriers. The danger isn't one tariff, it's a signal that the rules of global trade are no longer stable. Is this a short-term bargaining tool or the beginning of a new economic divide? Share your thoughts below. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe and share this video so you won't miss what comes next. The next one's already brewing. Stay tuned.